Hello, Booktube, and welcome to Last Week in Booktube. This is a regular feature that I think I'm going to do more often now, where I look at my previous week of watching YouTube and Booktube in specific, and give you some things that I thought were noteworthy or that I really liked. Not at all meant to be a comprehensive listing. I watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of Booktube in any given day, much as in any given week, and just sort of bring them to your attention. So that I'll leave links to them all so that you know they're out there. And we'll start with Booktube. Then we'll go to broader YouTube, and then we'll go to the world, and then we'll come back. We'll finish up, I hope, with a smile on your face. And for Booktube, I have a lot of things to mention to you this time around. Of course, there's a concentration here on reviews, because I myself am a book reviewer. So I pay attention to book reviews on Booktube. And one of the first things that I want to mention to you is a book review of a very, very wonderful conversational style. Cathie Grimm gives us a so-called chatty review of The End of the Affair by Graham Greene. Always interested in hearing what readers make of Graham Greene. And this is a fascinating video for that. Then let's see here. Jason is one of my co-hosts for Maybe Midrash, an event all throughout the month of May where we talk about the intersection of religion and literature. All religions, living and dead, positive and negative, with all kinds of literature, fiction and nonfiction, poetry, all sorts of things. It's been gratifying to me to watch how many people on our little corner of Booktube have started responding to Maybe Midrash. That's wonderful. That's when you know that your event is real, that it's organic and not artificial, is when people start responding to it. And Jason himself did a video on Christian Wiman, who's a writer he really likes, and then the video is predictably really, really good. Then Sam at Sarcasm and Science Fiction made a very good, very interesting video of recommendations, science fiction recommendations that I'd be willing to bet that some of them will catch you by surprise, but the whole list is fascinating anyway. The guys, okay, all right, we're going to do a block of videos here, and you're going to notice a theme. And this was not intentional on my part, but it turns out that despite my having made no mystery of my reactions to certain authors, Booktube refuses to toe the line and do exactly what I want. and hence we have a block of review videos here of authors and books that I hate. But they're well done, so I'm going to bring them to your attention. The guys at Codex Cantina interviewed Mr. Harrigan's Phone from Stephen King's latest collection, If It Bleeds. Mr. Harrigan's Phone, they do a wonderful, intelligent, sensitive review of this story. And the review is wrong. The story is awful. Just awful. I'd be willing to bet that in the course of their fantastic video on it, you'll be able to spot how the ways in which the story is awful. Just watch for the special pleading. But as if that weren't bad enough, Reading Funk reviews The Shining, Stephen King's novel The Shining. And again, it's a fantastic performance. So we'll let you draw your own conclusions about whether or not one of the functions, I think, of a well-done book review is to give you a clear idea one way or another of whether or not you would like to read the work in question, while being fair to it, to leave you with an idea of, are you disposed to agree with the reviewer or not? Are you made curious enough about the thing under review to read it despite or because of the comments that the reviewer has made, or not? These reviews do that wonderfully. It grates me that they do it with this particular author, but nevertheless. And then Dane reviewed Jailbird by Kurt Vonnegut. He's an author I not only hate because of how crappy his fiction is from one end to the next, all of it, the short stories, the novels, dreadful, just in every way, shape, and form. But he's also a writer who I hate personally, that I couldn't stand him personally or professionally, and yet here's a wonderful review. And I think this is the last of the bunch. Brian's book Bastion. He has shifted to no video on his videos. Instead, it's audio of a very rambunctious and really entertaining reading group that he does. I don't know why it can't be filmed, but one way or another. They did this time around Rabbit Run by John Updike. It's like a mini little rebellion in all the quarters of Steve Landia, where people intentionally giving thoughtful, considered examinations of authors that I have deemed beyond the pale. it's almost like I'm not an absolute ruler at all. But anyway, to bring us back, to wash the taste of these awful authors out of our mouth and our mind, I have a book review of an author who's really, really good. It's another really good book review. It's Final Blow Joe reviews Excession by Iain M. Banks, a culture novel of his. Great science fiction, and he does a wonderful job. He does it justice. What else I got here that's Booktube related? Oh, John Varner. You'll know a lot of you will know him from comments, I guess. He started a Booktube channel of his own. It's early days yet. I think he has like half a dozen videos up. I'll leave a link. I'm sure he'd like the company. I'm sure he'd like a welcome to Booktube. It looks, even from those first few videos that he wrote, that he's made so far, that he's going to be a perfect example of what I've talked about on the growth of Booktube, where we are going to get more and different kinds of readers, different perspectives, different kinds of books, different voices. I love that. Absolutely love it. I love that I am more and more seeing booktubers talking about books that I wouldn't under any circumstances read, whether or that I don't like. I'm watching all these book reviews, these intelligent, well done, spirited book reviews of authors I can't stand. Or in John Varner's case, I'm watching videos and really enjoying them about types of literature that don't really interest me. And I get that all over Booktube now. Whereas once upon a time, our frequencies were far fewer. So I'll leave a link to his channel. Let's see here. Oh, yes, of course. The best little library in the country, Weathersfield Proctor Library in Vermont, is closed to the public, of course. I mentioned this in the last week in Booktube, but they have been continuing to try to have an online presence for their patrons, and that involves Storytime. Just a load-bearing function of any good library is Storytime, and there's a Storytime. I will leave the link to the latest Weathersfield Proctor Library Storytime. Seeking Stories, a Booktube channel that I think I was subscribed to, but I wasn't really on my radar, I don't think. Maybe I wasn't subscribed. But he did a video recently announcing a gigantically ambitious project called Stormalong, where he and a group of other co-hosts, none of whom I knew about. So when I was done watching his video, I followed the links that he left to all of his co-hosts and subscribed immediately to their channels because they're all fantastic, just fantastic. It's what I'm talking about. Whole realms of Booktube that I have no idea even existed, even with all the Booktube that I watch. And their event is called Stormalong, and they are going to read the Stormlight Archives of Brandon Sanderson, which the first one, The Way of Kings, is 1,000 pages long. And then the second one is 2,000 pages long. And then the third one is 45,000 pages long. 45,000 pages long. And then the third one is rumored to be coming out in November and is rumored to be 475,000 pages long. So in other words, as big itself as the collections of whole libraries. 475,000 pages long. I forget what the name of that fourth one is. This is obviously at least partially a case of the phenomenon that I've described a few times on this channel, of an author who finds a hidden doorway in the back of the asylum and slips out of the keeping of his editors. No editor should ever allow a book to be as long as every one of these books is. No editor should ever do that. But nevertheless, they have. So as has been often pointed out, one book of the Stormlight Archives is as long as the whole of The Lord of the Rings. And it just keeps going. And in order to prepare for that fourth book that comes out in November, the hosts of Stormalong are reading the first three. And they're doing a read-along with elaborate affection. They love these books so much. And in detailed attention. So I think June and July, 2 whole months, are being devoted just to The Way of Kings, the first book. Which is, if you break it down, a read-along that will get the book read in a fairly painless way. So I'll leave a link, I'll leave a link to Seeking Stories, and if I remember, I'll leave a link to his co-hosts, because you should watch all their videos. But if I forget to do that, you can find the co-host through his video, and you might want to consider. You might want to consider joining and getting this series, because although I mock the length of the books, the Stormlight Archives are really good. The books are really good. So I don't have any copies. There's a long story connected with that I will tell, but I'm going to get them because I am going to fanboy along with this read-along. let's see. Oh, Leo at A Little Book Life. A lot of you know his channel. It's just wonderful. We drew him in slowly but surely. We drew him in to our clutches here on Booktube and got him to make Booktube videos. And he made a video just recently in which he celebrates his first year on Booktube. So I will leave a link. Those of you who don't know about his channel, you're missing a lot. He's really good. Let's see here. Sir Booksage started a feature on his channel called First Impressions, where he looks at some series and sort of tells you about it. It's a combination of impressionistic and informative. And he picked this time around Lois McMaster Bujold, the Vorkosigan saga. That is, I've read. I don't think I've read all the books in the saga, and it's been a long time since I read even one of them. So his video was fascinating for me. I don't know how many of you know Bujold. She is prolific. She's written a lot of books and won a shelf of awards. But I don't hear her talked about a lot on my corner, or this corner of Booktube. But for all I know from the Stormalong co-hosts, introduced me to a whole raft of Booktube channels I didn't know existed. So for all I know, there's a Lois McMaster Bujold channel that I've just not come across. But one way or another, you should check out his video and stick around for the other First Impressions. Okay, and then the last Booktube thing is Hannah at Hannah's Books, who started she started a feature called Weekly Rambles, where she just assembles her thoughts, impressions, that sort of thing from the previous week, and sort of just talks about it. It's not necessarily book focused, but it's very endearing. It has a personal element threaded throughout that I increasingly like. She mentions in this video, the one that I'll leave a link to, that she isn't sure she'll be able to do this every week. I hope she does, because it's fascinating. And that'll do for Booktube. I could talk for 2 hours just about the Booktube videos that I've watched. But that'll do for Booktube. Now we'll go to broader YouTube. And the broader YouTube, I'm going to leave you a link to 2 videos here. One by Evans111 and one by Upper Echelon Gamers. And you might think, well, I only watch Booktube and I only watch a little of Booktube, so I don't know what larger thing of YouTube would interest me. This will interest you, especially if you have a Booktube channel. I imagine quite a few people who watch me have a Booktube channel. But even if you don't have a Booktube channel, this has the potential to affect you. If you have a Booktube channel, then in the last month you have noticed something. Since in 2020, you have noticed something on your channel, almost without exception. You have noticed a bot comment pop up. The name of the poster has changed many, many times, but the bot comment is always something along the lines of great content, want to be friends. Do you want to be friends? Do you want to be Booktube friends? Do you want to be YouTube friends? Great content, congratulations. Do you want to be friends? I watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of Booktube, and I have seen this comment everywhere on thousands and thousands of channels. For all I know, tens or even hundreds of thousands of channels. And I worried about it. When it cropped up on many videos of mine, I noticed that it was always very early and so persistent on every video, and I would report it and flag it and ban it from the channel, of course, because I didn't want it to be there. I didn't want anybody else to see it, but I didn't really give it as much thought as I should have. And these 2 videos dig in deep to what could be potentially enormously alarming about this phenomenon that has flown under the radar while everybody has been concerned with a worldwide pandemic. But YouTube ought to be concerned with this, because this could kill it as a business. Because it turns out, in the course of these videos, it turns out that the YouTubers, the Booktubers, I hope there weren't any Booktubers. I tried to spread the word myself, but it turns out that the people who have channels who responded to this question, want to be friends, who responded to it or went to the channel and subscribed and said, sure, I want to be friends. I'm a new Booktuber or a new YouTuber. I want as many friends as I can get. It turns out that a lot of the people that did that lost control of their channel simply by commenting, simply by subscribing, going to this channel and subscribing to it. They lost control of their own channel and were locked out of it. And it turns out that many thousands of people who noticed these wannabe friends comments popping up, noticed that they popped up on privately listed videos or on public listed videos before they were posted. And the combination of those 2 things, how fast the comment appears, even on private videos, and that suddenly people are losing control of their accounts when all they did was respond, or subscribe. The combination of those two things has led these two channels, and it makes sense to me, to theorize that someone has figured out a way to get around two-factor authentication and get inside your own account merely by exposure and make a zombie bot out of your own channel, so that is then enslaved to do more bot traffic, only it's not, YouTube's algorithm won't catch it as bot traffic because it is actually in a channel. It's yours. It's the channel you built that has been zombified into a slaved bot of this human malware, this person who, I'm sure there's one person who did this. I'm sure there's one person at the heart of it, and there's no punishment bad enough for them. And the reason why this would affect you, even if you don't have a YouTube channel, is because if somebody can create a malware, a piece of malware that can somehow get around or break two-factor authentication, then using YouTube at all puts you at danger, right? Even seeing, now I wish I hadn't flagged those comments and reported them as spam, because for all I know, that exposed me. It looks like somebody has figured out a way to make the absolute most tar baby bot imaginable, where you only have to touch it to be co-opted by it. And if word spreads that if you use YouTube, you're at risk of being co-opted, no one will use YouTube. YouTube could lose its business model overnight if they don't deal with this. And they must, somebody there must know it. I mean, in order to watch videos, you probably have a YouTube account. You probably have a Google account. And if you're like hundreds of thousands of people in the world, the email that you used for your Google account is the same email you use for your online banking. And it looks like somebody has found a way. You might think, well, maybe it is, but my online banking is secure. Well, people thought their YouTube accounts were secure. They thought even if you can somehow make a bot that wants to infiltrate an account just by me leaving a comment or subscribing, you can't do it, because in order to take control of my account, you have to know things about my account that only I know. You have to know my authentication. Somebody has got around that. This ought to be raising alarm bells everywhere at YouTube Central. And everyone who uses YouTube ought to be aware of this, very aware of it. My strong advice, I mean, watch these videos and you know, think about them as you will. But my strong advice to booktubers who are encountering that little wannabe friends thing on every video, my strong advice now would be to simply ignore it. Don't interact with it in any way, even to ban it. Don't interact with it in any way. But most of all, most especially, don't respond to it. Don't engage with it directly. You could lose your channel. And who knows what else? Who knows what else? Because if somebody can do that, if they can create a malware that can take your channel's control away from you merely by responding, merely by subscribing, from which you should be invulnerable. If somebody can create malware that can do that, then they can create malware that allows you to keep your channel, but has slaved your keyboard, so that the person who has created that malware knows everything you do with your keyboard. So they're not taking your account away from you, but they might as well be. No, the implications of it are absolutely terrifying. And they go like an axe right to the live wood of the platform that is YouTube. So YouTube had better deal with it, I would think. I would think they would. I would be very concerned. But anyway, that is your broader YouTube. It's grim, I'm afraid. And if broader YouTube is grim, well, then the broader world is even grimmer. I took a few notes here. I took a few notes. Note number one, of course, is that the United States is poised to, or may have already crossed 90,000 deaths from this virus, and looks to be headed to 100,000 before the beginning of summer. And note number two is that one of the biggest reasons why that is because our racist, sexist, fascist, lying moron president thinks he knows more than the experts. He has recently started sniping at career experts at virology and pandemics, sniping at them for not knowing as much as he does. And unfortunately, he has a lot of sway in this emergency. He has a lot. He can't just be sidelined as a lunatic septuagenarian who doesn't know what he doesn't know. He is the president of the United States. He has a lot of power, far less power than he thinks he does when he's tweeting, angrily tweeting in all caps like a lunatic, reopen America, time to get back to work, all that sort of stuff. The reason he's doing that is because he doesn't have the power to do it. All he can do is tweet about it. The governors have the power, and in some cases even the mayors have the power. And they, thank God, quite a few of them, maybe not in your own state, if so, my sympathies, but quite a few governors are holding the line. They're simply saying, no, I don't care. I'm not going to lose citizens. The citizens aren't going to die unnecessarily on my watch. I'm going to listen to the science. I'll reopen when it's safe, and not a moment before. And there's nothing that the president can do to stop that. He can try and extort those states by removing federal money, but a lot of the hardest hit states in America are states that pay more to the government than take out of the government. So the threat of withholding federal funds is, in exchange for the deaths of thousands of their citizens, is not going to weigh a lot with a lot of those governors, who, thanks to the, this compartmentalized, federalized system, those governments are immediately worried about their approval ratings and losing their job. They have to go home to neighbors who might be sick or dying or worried about being sick or dying. Which is why there shouldn't be a federal government at all, because no one in the federal government has to worry about that. No one lives in the federal government. But anyway, that's a rant for another time. And the capper of all this for this previous week, for the broader, grim world news, was the president's idiot, totally unqualified, unelected, and unvetted son-in-law idly musing in an interview about whether or not he intends to allow the 2020 election to happen. It's too soon to tell, and not really my call to make. I don't really know where we're going to come down on this. Not even the president of the United States musing about that, although he has plenty of times. But his son-in-law, the junk-born slumlord of a junk-born slumlord, and it's on his reedy little fascist shoulders that he's saying, well, I don't know. I don't really know we'll have that election or not. We'll see. So the world news was terrible. Just terrible. So we're going to turn away from that. We're going to cap this off and put a smile on your face. And the way we're going to do that is the tried and true method of cryptids, of cryptology. Because Monster Hunters did a fantastic long video about sea monsters. And it has all the banner headlines where they propose groundbreaking photography, fantastic revelatory film footage, and you just have to watch it. It is brainless, it is candy, it is so much fun. Whether you want to believe in sea, of course, we all want to believe in giant sea monsters, don't we? Of course we do. I do, and I've spent more time on the open ocean than all but a handful of you, all of you put together, except a handful of you. And even I would love it if there were sea monsters. That would be awesome. It would add a tangible element of magic to the world. And maybe when you watch this Monster Quest video, you will think that's what you're seeing. Maybe it is. Maybe you will. Look at some of the video that is interspersed throughout this this video that I'll leave a link to, and see if the rational part of your mind can come up with another explanation. What is it? Is it faked? Is it CGI? Is it a person in a rubber costume underneath the water? Don't be fooled. Monster Quest and Monster Hunters and every other big pseudoscience channel, they have the money to fake these things, and they've been caught at it many times. So it could easily be two guys in Hollywood-level special effects directly under the water. You judge for yourself. The point is that for the length of this documentary, you can forget about the president's feckless son-in-law musing on whether or not he wants to hold an election. You can forget about a president who knows nothing about anything. He's ignorant on every subject that exists, saying, I'm really smart about this stuff. Who knows? I have a knack for it. People are amazed by it. People are always coming up to me and saying, sir, you have a knack for this. And he's in charge during an absolute crisis of a pandemic. You can forget about all of that. You can forget about all of it. You can even, temporarily anyway, forget about wannabe friends. That thing that every booktuber has seen. You can forget about all of that when you're watching this Monster Quest video and just have fun. Just turn it on and think, what if is this real? That's what I did, and I had a blast, so I'm going to leave a link to it. And that is it. That is Last Week in Booktube. Tons of Booktube content, some depressing YouTube content, some depressing world content, and sea monsters. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, Booktube.